Because that is a very powerful thing to be armed with, especially in today's society where there is so much uncertainty. And so at the very least, pursue a passion that you can make a career out of. Say yes to things that really at least enrich your life, if not necessarily immediately your pocketbook. Because I will tell you something, the statement about if you do something you love, you will never work a day in your life is very true. You'll work harder than you ever worked for anybody else pursuing something you love.
Sure.
You will kill yourself to do something, but it won't feel like work most of the time. You're going to have your stresses, you're going to have all this stuff, but you're your own and you are pursuing something. And what is the worst that could happen? You find out who you are and how this is part of you, and you fulfill a part of your soul. And I will guarantee you, you do it long enough and you do it with some street smarts, it will also fill your pocket.
Yeah.
So saying yes to life, saying yes to things in business. What the show, we're talking about stuff we're relevant to business and jobs and what have you, but it really comes down to saying yes to life.
Sure. I mean, having that understanding, especially as you get older and as you say, unencumbered, right? And you put that in a position of confidence in your daily routine, whatever it is you're doing. I think it's far more rewarding than not. Interesting listening to Gary Vaynerchuk, who is he's a marketing guru, public speaker, investor. The list goes on. But when asked if he would invest in startup companies and what types, he's been talking a lot about the fact that he would invest in companies that are started by guys, ladies in their 50s, 60s, and as far as even their 70s. And when asked why, he said, because they have the experience. They've been there, done that. They've jumped the hurdles. The seasoning, right? And I just really want to encourage people, if you're at that position in your life where you're looking to make a change and you're in your 50s and beyond, it's not too late, man. I reinvented myself this year, I think 3 times over already by saying yes to stuff. So,
we started off when you were asking me about my educational path and stuff like that, and I said I went to the Claremont Graduate School. Well, the Claremont Graduate School, for anybody who knows, at the time when I went, was called the Peter Drucker Center.
Yeah.
Okay. And anybody who knows Peter Drucker was basically the guru of marketing. And his claim to fame, honestly, was that he was able to distill all that knowledge base and put it in written format for those people that basically were growing through the ranks in companies to where they could basically become very seasoned and develop marketing skills. The thing about Peter Drucker is that he really was, and no disrespect to Peter, but he was really a boring lecturer. Okay. And he was an amazing author, amazing writer, but he was a really boring lecturer. And I will admit, I fell asleep a number of times in his class. So, and it wasn't because I partied hard the night before. The thing about Peter Drucker that really, some of the things, it's really funny how things that resonate with you, the things that you hold on to along the way of living, and then it all weaves into the same tapestry. Peter Drucker used to say that on average, and remember, this is back in the 80s, 90s, the man's experience was based on, manufacturing industry, and the 50s and the 60s, 70s. He used to say that most people will change careers at least 5 times in their lifetime. Okay?
Yeah.
And and that was in the days when people weren't living as long as they are. You retire at 65, 67, whatever they basically push the retirement age to. You retire at that age, you're looking easily at another 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Possibly 30 even, or if not more, right? And so what are you going to do? You can't play that much golf, can you? I mean, so there is such a term. And sort of following up on what you were proposing and suggesting to people, there's a term called encore careers. There is a term that specifically talks about reinventing yourself, taking a different path later on in life. Because imagine if you are a 65-year-old person that has been very fortunate to have a rich, rewarding corporate life. You have raised your kids, you paid off your mortgage, you're now basically looking to retirement, but you are engaged and active. You on a daily basis. Your brain is functioning on things on a daily basis. What are you going to do? Go sit back and basically just send emails and junk jokes and circular mailers to each other? I mean, you really owe it to yourself, to those around you, to your own health and well-being, to continue to be engaged in whatever it is that excites you.
Yeah.
You don't have to pursue it for the paycheck anymore, maybe, but there's a heck of a lot of other motivations you could pursue it for: volunteerism, being of service, providing guidance and mentorship. Heck, you could basically pursue something like, I don't know, I wanted to always be an archaeologist, but I didn't, I had a family to feed, so I basically went and became, a head of marketing. But now I can pursue a degree in archaeology. A lot of universities are positioning themselves to kind of provide this kind of venue and avenues for baby boomers. It is an unbelievable time, and opportunities are abound to say yes to things that enrich your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now.
Right. I want to take a little turn again on
Sure.
our conversation based on something we said yesterday. We've talked a little bit philosophically today about life and twists and turns and value propositions. Yesterday, when we were ready to hang up after talking for almost an hour for the first time, we both appreciated the conversation and the uninhibited discussion that we had we weren't after anything from one another. We were just enjoying that conversation. And you mentioned to me, you've had a similar discussion with somebody else about the value of those types of conversations and how we don't do that enough. And I think it's important to remind people the value in just having a conversation with somebody, not looking to get anything out of it, but beyond some camaraderie or good discussion about something.
Well, let's refer to what we just did for almost 50 minutes here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a perfect example, actually, of it. Yes, we as a society don't take the time to engage with one another, partly because we're so friggin' busy. I mean, the internet is something I love, but I hate and detest at the same time, and I don't think I'm the only one who has that love-hate relationship
Sure,
with it, right?
Of course.
We used to have, there used to be time. I had a conversation yesterday with somebody else. We used to have time between things. We used to have pauses between things where we could think, right? And we don't anymore. It's just rush, demands on our time. And you and I, when we first got on the phone this morning, it's like, it's 7:30 and I've already been to the gym and because that's the only time I have to do these things.
Yeah.
So when we get together, in today's society, and I don't think it's limited to the United States, I think it's a universal condition. When we get together in today's society, we literally do it where there's either an agenda or there's a to-do list or highlights that I want to make sure I mention or a list of questions. It's like curated and planned. We don't allow for the organic exchange, the benefit that comes from purely engaging. And I shared with you one of my guests on my shows a couple of weeks ago who was from the South, put a word to it that I knew, but I had forgotten. And he said, thank you for the time we were on the show. It was great visiting. We literally just visited for about an hour.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what I think what you were alluding to, Jim, is that, and what we talked about yesterday, is that if you are fortunate enough, and I feel very blessed for the last 3 years because the show that does not have nothing to do with monetizing, putting money in my pocket, has enriched my life by providing me an opportunity every Wednesday at 12 o'clock to sit down. I purposely do not prepare for it. Okay? I purposely did not look at anything more than what you sent me via email yesterday about what the show is, because I knew very well what my exchange with you today was going to be like based on what you and I talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
It was a connection-based thing. I sit down with people I don't really know for an hour. I know enough about them not to have dead airtime and make it boring for the listener. But other than that, I allow the journey to unfold. I allow them to tell me things and genuinely react to them. And then basically from where that is and what I say to them, we take the journey together to wherever that path rolls out in front of us. Those experiences, the ability to do that, the opportunities, seeking out the opportunities to do that, to connect with people and have that conversation, we are richer for having conversations, especially if it's something that is we don't necessarily agree on, or maybe we go into the conversation thinking we are on different sides of. Because when we don't have these conversations, when we don't have this organic exchange, this exploration, you're already going into the situation where the predetermined outcome. Well,
Yeah.
how boring is it that you think you know everything?
Yeah, sure. You know, you mentioned a country that you'd spent some time in earlier today, and it reminded me of a lesson that I had along this exact topic. You mentioned the word Kuwait. I spent about a week in Kuwait a few years ago, and it was business, but they had an activity that they had us participate in, my brother and I, where we had a nice formal dinner, and then we went to a house next door to the guest house that we were at. And there was 20 gentlemen there, and they had their hookah pipes, and we were in our formal attire, the jalabas that were provided to us. And we were told by our host that, hey, we're going to spend 15 minutes talking about business, but then we're going to spend 2 hours talking about whatever comes to mind in life, personal, and just enjoy each other's company. And I thought, what an incredible experience, especially looking back on it. And what we're talking about right now is that this was part of a routine that these men participated in on a regular basis. And that was the act of just lounging and enjoying the company of one another and what each other had to say. And it was set aside specifically for that reason. No TV, no music, just an environment where it was open to discussion. And I think we can learn a lot from that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll tell you something. Next time you're interested in doing that, you don't have to go as far as Kuwait. I have a friend of mine who has a Lebanese restaurant in Mission Viejo, in San Juan Capistrano, and they have great hookah.
Okay.
And I'm sure we can find something closer to you in Glendora or in Glendale. But you're absolutely correct, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And it is very much a part of that traditional connection, and it is very patriarchal society. So the women have their own version of that as well. But I think what you're talking about is what they refer to as a diwan, which is basically a place of sitting down and talking.
Yeah.
And there is value in that. In Western society, sometimes we seem to marginalize the importance of talking, importance of connecting with one another. You look at places like Italy, for example, you look at places like France, and then there's these, or even in the UK, there are certain generations that basically gather every afternoon. They get together at the pub. They get together at the coffee shop. Can you hear me, Jim? Sorry.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. They get together at the coffee, at the cafe. They connect in the morning, maybe over a small espresso or after work, and then they go off and have their sort of family time. Yeah, we don't do this, and especially for guys. Women, I think, are better at that. They keep a close-knit, group of women and friends and stuff, and I think they stay connected more than we guys do. But I'm so glad that you had a chance to experience that, because you're absolutely correct. It's something we should actually cultivate whenever we have a chance to do. Small groups, larger groups. It's not about the size as much. It's not a networking opportunity.
Right.
We tend to do a lot of those. I could triple book myself every day on networking opportunities and things after work. But what is the depth of connection?
Yeah. Look, I think we said this before we even got on the shows that we could probably talk all day. And we're kind of getting this thing extended past some of the career choices. But I think it's really important that we discuss these things and remind people the importance of just getting to know one another without any expectations. Call it a movement or whatever you want to call it. But as a seasoned businessman and now a parent, I'm understanding how important just sitting back and having a good conversation with somebody is, and the reward of that. And beyond and when I say the reward, what I mean is when I got off the phone with you yesterday, I had a skip in my step. I had a happiness, in my mind, just because of having a positive conversation with a stranger and learning a little bit more about somebody else's life and the commonality that we all share. And I don't think we do that enough because we're so focused on what can I get out of this person. And I think it's a great way to close the show today is just with the reminder that there's a lot to be learned from others if we could sit back and listen and enjoy humanity, if you will, right? Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.